Getting Paid, WordPress Tools, and Making Happy Clients, presented by Mike Demo. Real quick, I want to say a couple of words about GreenGeeks for those of you who are not familiar with us. We're a 300% green energy web hosting provider, which essentially means we put back 3 times the power we consume into the grid in the form of renewable energy. We have been recognized by the US EPA since 2009 as a green power partner. We offer share hosting, reseller hosting, VPS, and dedicated server. So moving on to a few housekeeping items for the webinar. If you have questions during the presentation, I can ask you please to put them in the Q&A so Mike can be answering them at the end of his presentation. And as always, you're welcome to chat in the room. We have, just remember to select all panelists and attendees so that everybody can see what you're discussing. And as always, I tell you that we're recording this. So if you have to step away from your computer, don't worry about it. We will send you a recording in the next couple of days. One more thing, at the end of the webinar, we're doing a raffle for 2 free EcoSite Light hosting accounts for 12 months. Or if you're already a customer and you already have an account, we are going to add an additional year of hosting to your existing account. So now I'm going to introduce the team here today from GreenGeeks. We have Erica Barbosa, who will be assisting us in the chat and the raffle. Erica, do you want to just quickly say hi to the group?
Hi, everyone. My name is Erica Barbosa. I am from Costa Rica. I hope you enjoyed this webinar a lot. I am really excited to have Mike today. I hope you learn a lot about WordPress and have fun.
Okay, well, I'm going to introduce Mike, our speaker today. Mike Demo, or Demopoulos, is a lover of open source first, specific tools later. Because of this, he speaks at Ignite conferences, meetups, WordCamps, Joomla events, and more. As a helpful person, he gladly contributes to open source projects in any capacity necessary. And he believes there are too many mics in the world, so he goes by Demo, just Demo. Demo spent years building a strong client base in the financial insurance industries. He uses that background to speak on various topics, including WordPress, Joomla, A/B testing content, streamlining your workflow, and depositing your profit. And we all like profit. Aligned with this mission to empower WordPress businesses, Mike is now the lead handshaker at webventures.io. Their approach to venture capital is unique and founder-focused. As a community evangelist for BoldGrid, Demo openly shares his business acumen and marketing insight to empower members of the community. When he's not spending time with his wife, Kayla, you may find Demo at a Disney theme park, collecting artwork, hanging out with his dog, Belena, or inviting groups to tiki bars. Yes, you can ask Demo what his favorite tiki bar is on Twitter at mpmike. So Mike, do you want to dive into the presentation?
Yeah, thank you so much, Anna. Definitely appreciate that wonderful intro. And thank you to Erica for wrangling all the wonderful attendees in the chat. This is going to be around an hour and a half to an hour and 45-minute workshop. We're going to dive into a lot of stuff, but if you need to step away, it will be recorded. And I will share my slides. Okay, cool. So yeah, this is called Invoicing and You, Getting Paid, WordPress Tools, and Making Happy Clients. But before we get into that, a little bit about me. My name is Mike Demo. I'm an evangelist at BoldGrid and the lead handshaker at Web Ventures. BoldGrid makes WordPress plugins. Web Ventures buys WordPress plugins. That's kind of the end of that. My email is mikedemo@boldgrid.com or mikedemo@webventures.io. Twitter is probably the best place to get a hold of me. You can tweet me at mpmike, and I hope you tweet any thoughts or aha moments that you have on today's workshop. I'd really love to hear your insight. The agenda, just so you kind of know what we're going to be going on, is we're going to be doing some Invoice Basics, talking about some of the basic concepts with invoicing, how to get paid and payment methods, all about contracts. Then we're going to look at some WordPress invoicing plugins, the top 3 of them, in fact. Then we're going to go into live demos of those invoicing plugins so you can see how they kind of work. We're going to talk about recurring revenue, some cautions and some danger points that you might fall into in your business. And then at the end, we will have time for Q&A. So without further ado, if you do want to follow along, there are a lot of links in this presentation. You can go to boldgrid.link/2LC or scan the QR code with your phone if you prefer that. You can always get, the slide deck will be, emailed probably with the recording later, so you can click the links later. But if you wanted the slides now, that is the link and URL to view the slides, so that, if you were so apt and wanting to do that. So we'll give everyone a second if they wish to pull that up in another tab. Okay, great. So Invoice Basics. Everyone loves invoicing because invoicing means getting money, and we like all getting paid, right? So invoicing is one of those things that I find businesses don't really spend a lot of the time thinking about. It's just something that exists, and it's not really a part of their business, process, or something that they give a lot of thought to. They give a lot of thought to their business branding, or to the services they're offering, or making sure that they have good customer support. But invoicing is something that's really important because we all do it. We all need to invoice, and we all need to get paid. And there's, ways to do it that are maybe more efficient or less efficient. And there's also ways to do it to have you get paid more often and possibly even more money. So we're going to talk about some of those basic concepts now. First thing I want to just, talk about estimates versus quotes. So this is probably the first thing in the invoicing world you probably interact with clients. A client will call you and say, hey, I have this project and I want you to do the project. And you're like, yay, I can do that. That's exciting. And they're like, great, can I get an estimate? Or they might ask for a quote. Those are two different things. So I used to come from the freelance world. I still do freelancing, but I used to come from the agency world, and we had big Fortune 500 clients. So the way we did it is when we had a discussion with a potential contract, we gave an estimate, and the estimate was just us, back of the napkin type math, right? Where we would say, you know what, we think this is the range you're looking at for this type of project. But for us to really get your formal quote, we have to do discovery. And for us, we charged a $5,000 discovery fee. Now, keep in mind, we were a large downtown Minnesota agency. Our average project was about $500,000. So, just figure out what makes sense for your business. When I do freelance, I sometimes charge only a $500 discovery fee. What's nice about a discovery fee is you get two benefits from that. Benefit one, it's very easy to give just a basic estimate on back of the napkin, on a phone call, or in an email. It's very hard to give an accurate quote because you don't know exactly what that project's going to entail. Yeah, they might say, I need an e-commerce WordPress website. Great. So you probably use WooCommerce, you got your hosting at GreenGeeks, but there's a lot more in that. Like, how many products are you going to be inputting? Are you inputting those products or the client? Is there training involved? Do you have to do monthly updates? Do you have to do a custom design, or can you use an existing theme? Are you going to be using a page builder or doing everything by hand with code? These are all different things that affect the quote. So I recommend having a discovery fee that can be applied against the quote that is like, this is what we're sure it's going to cost, when an estimate is more back of the napkin math. Now, if it's just a small project, like sometimes I have somebody calling me and say, hey, I just need someone to edit these 3 things on my website. I say, great, my hourly rate is, $150 an hour or whatever. And then, I'll bill them for the 3 hours and just get it done. It's not that big of a deal. But usually we want clients to have long-term relationships because it's so much easier to keep a relationship with an existing client than it is to try to keep selling new stuff time and time again. So, we hopefully are going to be invoicing our clients multiple times for multiple different things, for maintenance contracts, for hosting, all sorts of different things. So that's a little bit about the difference between estimates and quotes. You then need to determine the price of your services. There are 3 main ways that you can price your services. in the kind of web agency or design space. And this is true for pretty much any industry, but you know, this is a space that I'm mostly familiar with because of WordPress, right? So there's something called cost plus pricing. So that's pretty easy. You look at your expenses and then you add margin for profit. So let's say, you know, you are going to do that, e-commerce store, but you're not actually going to do the work. Maybe you're going to have your designer do it and your developer code it. Well, you know what their cost is to you, and then you know what your hourly rate is. So you take just all your basic expenses, you know, your expenses for hosting and plugins and themes and anything else out there, and then you just add a margin percentage. Maybe you want to add 20%, you know, or 40% or 50%. You know, you can, it's kind of up to you. Now, you know, it's up to you if you want to show the expenses and then line item it out. I recommend bundling it together, but that's one way to have very, you know, easy math pricing. The other thing you can do is market rate pricing. You want to compare your rates with similar companies. Now, we all know that there is someone that can do it, you know, faster, better, and cheaper, right? Not really. This is the old school, like you got to choose three, you know, cost, speed, or quality. So, you know, people can pick two and, you know, lose the third one. So if they want it really fast and really cheap, it's probably not going to be the best quality. And that's why things like Fiverr strive so well. There's nothing wrong with that model. It's just a different model. So figure out kind of who your colleagues are in the space. Are you just a one-man shop or a one-woman shop? Are you a big agency that has to deal with office space when it wasn't the COVID, and other expenses and healthcare and things like that? Figure out, like, you know, similar size projects and type of work and experience and portfolios, and figure out what they're charging. And you want to have comparable rates with similar size companies doing the same service. So that's market rate pricing. And then the last one is kind of my favorite, but a lot of people think this is a moral gray area, but I personally don't. Value-driven pricing. So if you were going to work with a small nonprofit and you were going to build them a 20-page website that did X, Y, and Z, but then, and you were going to charge them, let's say, $5,000 for that. But then let's say Microsoft calls you and says, hey, we have this tiny little campaign we want to do. It's going to be a 20-page site, and it's exactly the same scope that you did for that nonprofit. We want it exactly the same level of difficulty and scope. Let's assume it's the same. Would you still charge them the same $5,000? The value that Microsoft's going to get out of that work is probably infinitely higher than the value that nonprofit potentially is going to get out of it. So this is when discovery, going back to the discovery motion payment term, is so important. Because if you can figure out what the end purpose of this project is, you can price yourself and get the maximum dollar from that client as possible. And keep in mind, you can't service your client if you're not in business. So you actually owe it to your client to charge the best fair price, and then deliver on your promises, hopefully over-deliver on those promises. So a good example of this is when I was doing agency work, we had an insurance company, was one of our clients. And we determined how much is a lead worth to you. They said a lead was worth this much money. And we said, okay, great. So if we can prove to you, and we were doing ongoing marketing for them, for their web stuff. If we can prove to you, you know, every dollar you give us, we're going to give you back $1.30. How many dollars would you give us? That's literally the conversation that we had. And then they laugh, and then you make them answer the question. And then they would say, well, unlimited dollars, because it goes back to the data. Here's the thing. Most of the time when we do our web projects, we don't know what we're building for. We're just guessing. We're like, oh, you want an e-commerce website? Let me make you an e-commerce website, but you don't know why that site exists. What are the KPIs or the key performance indicators that that client is going to get out of that project? Because one of the titles of this talk is making clients happy. Has this ever happened to you? There was a honeymoon period where the client loves the project you did on the WordPress site, and then 6 months later, you decide to do some extra work or something, and they call you and they're like not happy anymore. The honeymoon phase is over. I know it happens in the plugin space sometimes, in the hosting space. It's because you didn't have a good understanding of what they wanted. Maybe you were so focused on the design, and maybe the client wanted a pretty website, but that's probably not why they engaged with you in the first place. So if you can figure out in the discovery what the value in the project and what success is, and have it a yes or no, find out hard metric numbers of success and failure. You want to be able to look back a year from now and have the client answer, yes, you succeeded, or no, you didn't, not, well, I don't know. That will help you with value-driven pricing immensely. We'll talk about some strategies on how to do estimates at the end after our live demos, but at a high level, those are the 3 different ways you can price your services. There's also, different pricing models if you are just going to bill, as well, because those are the so these are how to price the services, and then these are the pricing models. So they're kind of 2 different things. So you can do an hourly rate. My hourly rate is X, and then figure it out from there. Daily or weekly rates. For example, when I was doing freelance, if I needed to travel to the client site, I had a daily rate. And if it was an overnight trip, and sometimes it was because we had national clients, we had a travel rate, which was usually half of what the daily rate was on top of the travel expenses. You can also do a weekly rate or a fixed project rate. Like this website will just cost blank, regardless of how many hours it takes. Fixed rate projects are good, but you have to be very careful with scope creep. And that's why we're going to talk about contracts in a little bit. Next thing that I don't see a lot of people doing is get a deposit. We're all super excited to start working, right? How many times do we get deposits before we do any work? You can't get a hosting account unless you pay a deposit. You can't get the plugin unless you buy it. You need to get some type of deposit. I still do a little freelance, and the way I do it is, I bill by the hour, and you have to buy 20 hours of time before I'll even talk to you. That's what I do. And then I just eat away at the 20 hours. You don't do any work until you're paid. Never work until you're paid. And that's why we're going to talk about contracts in a little bit. It's so easy to get going and to be like, oh, where the client says they're net 30. And we'll talk about payment terms in a bit. But don't work until you're paid. Don't start working until you get a deposit of some sort. And don't deliver the client the files. Don't sign over rights of it until you've been fully paid and compensated. And the larger the client is, the harder this is, because really, really large companies have what's called procurement divisions. And it's their job to make sure that they get the best possible price for their companies. But there are also people too just trying to do their job. But it's also very easy to be a small guy that's being, kind of belittled or kind of pushed around. Be like, oh, well, our payment terms are net 90. Well, the project might be over in 90 days, and you didn't even get the initial deposit yet. It's very easy to be like, oh, look, we're this large company, pay us. I've seen too many stories of people that have worked for Fortune 500 companies, and they never got paid. Maybe it was because there was something wrong with their tax forms. But here's the thing, they already delivered the work. And at that point, there's very little that they can do besides legal recourse to try to get paid. So don't do any work until you're paid. Let's talk about payment terms. So payment terms, like when you send an invoice out, it's we request that you pay us in 14 days, net 14, or 30 days, net 30, or net 60, or net 90. The thing about payment terms is the longer the terms are, the less likely you are to get paid. Now, it also means the larger the client, the more time that they'll need to have it work through their stuff. Now, some large clients, they have a credit card and they can just pay your stuff off a credit card, but there's probably a line that they have that then they have to go through a procurement office to figure it out. So set your payment terms for what makes sense for you. And you can do a net 30 payment if that's what you want to extend to your clients. But in my opinion, you shouldn't be a bank, and it's not your job to offer money lending to your clients. You can do that through payment providers. such as PayPal, have financing options, or they can get a small business loan, or any sorts of other avenues out there. I know it's very easy to just start the work, but please protect yourself. And even if your payment terms are net 30, I don't do any work without the deposit. I just don't. And if it's urgent or an emergency, they'll usually figure out a way to at least get that deposit paid quickly. It might be on a credit card, and maybe they prefer to pay by check, but if it's a true emergency, they'll figure out a way to make it possible. Let's talk about payment method. There's all these different ways that you can accept payment, right? You want to get paid, and how do you get paid? Well, there's some different ways you can accept payments. You can accept electronic payments from like PayPal, Stripe, Venmo, 2Checkout, Square, even Bitcoin, if you are so inclined to accept cryptocurrency. So that's a very popular way. Now, they all have different fees. Like PayPal fees are notoriously high. I personally really like PayPal just because it works for me, but I am paying close to a 4% transaction fee on everything I do through that. That's worth it to me, but that is very high. If you're running, hundreds of thousands of dollars through your payment system, maybe something like Stripe, which is 2.1%, if I remember correctly, would be better. Or maybe having a discount if they decide to pay via another option. You can do bank transfer, like an ACH or a SWIFT or a money order. If you're gonna, I used to be the treasurer of Joomla, which is the second largest content management system second to WordPress. And we pay people all around the world. And I was in charge of our budget, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I had to pay people with bank transfer all around the world. And you know what I hate about SWIFT and ACH International? It's impossible to track. All you know is that, yep, our bank sent it. Well, my bank doesn't have it. Well, my bank said it was sent. I've had times where we couldn't, money disappeared. Not often, but specifically in some Asian countries, and if they have to deal with their banking systems, it took a long time to figure out where it is. So if you're sending money or doing any sort of money transfers, I highly, highly, highly recommend a service called Veem, V-E-E-M. And anything blue in the deck's a link, by the way, if you're viewing it on the slides. Veem is so great for international transfers because it does two things. Number one, it verifies who you're sending money to is who they say they are. And it collects all the required tax information and stuff that they need. It also requires the client, the person paying or that you're paying, enter their own bank details. Because I can't tell you how many times I've had a SWIFT code sent to me from someone and they mistyped a digit. Then I sent it off. And we didn't get it rejected until 6 months later when non-existent SWIFT code said this isn't a thing and sent it back to Citibank. Their fees are actually almost non-existent. The way the Veem makes money is they make their money on the currency exchange swings. So and they have a small transaction fee. So it's honestly cheaper. It was cheaper for us to use Veem at Joomla than it was to send a bank order through Citibank. So a bank and a SWIFT order, international wire transfer, bank transfer at Citibank was $25. Veem was like $3. And what's nice about Veem is it uses blockchain to track every part of the handshake. So that if someone says, I didn't get the money, or I sent it, or you don't have the money, you can see exactly where it is and it's fully trackable. I am such a big fan of Veem. So if you're doing any sort of bank transfers, I highly, highly recommend Veem. And Veem isn't like something where they have to have a special Veem account like PayPal. It goes into their bank account or comes from their bank account just like any bank transfer. So it still works to the end person's, and it goes into your bank account normal. It's not like a second pile of money like Venmo or PayPal that you have to draw from. It's just a service that connects the banks together. Physical. You can do paper money orders, cash or check. A lot of people still like physical checks. That's fine. But you need to make sure that you have time for the checks to clear. It can take up to 2 weeks, even in today's day and age, for a bad check to make it back to you. If it's a money order, then you know that it's instantly good as long as it's not a fraudulent money order. And if it's something like Western Union, you know that's good as well. You can take cash, but if you're going to do cash, make sure you have some sort of receipt that both parties signed to show that they gave that much money and you accepted that much money, because there's no paper trail naturally with cash. Checks are fine. A lot of companies just still cut checks, but you just have to let the client know that you're not going to work until the deposit's paid, or you're not going to deliver final files until your final payment is paid. Okay, let's talk about contracts. Everyone's favorite thing, right? Why contracts are important. So contracts are very important because it's not something that is insulting or dangerous. It's just saying two parties have an understanding that this is what you're offering and this is what they're paying for it. Here's what, here's the rights of the files and everything like that, all those things. Full disclosure, I'm not an attorney, nor do I play one on TV. But it's very important to make sure that you have contracts and everything is written down. I know it is too easy to just say, well, it's a small project, it doesn't really matter. I'm guilty of it too, I get it. But having a basic contract, says things like, who owns the work? Because, web content is sort of any other creative content. Like if you're a photographer, those photo rights don't transfer unless the photographer grants the license. It's very similar to any sort of intellectual property. So if the client's going to have full ownership of what you created, obviously you can't sell ownership of open source code, but anything that you created or pulled together, you can say that, yeah, you own our designs or whatever. And maybe you don't want them to. Maybe they just have a license to use it. But contracts are very important. And they're also one of those things that a lot of people just don't deal with until it's ready. Contracts also allow you to do really fun things as far as billing, which we'll talk about in a second, where you can set your terms. You can set your terms. In your contract, you can say, if you're late on a payment, here's the late payment penalty. You can say things like, this is, we expect you to, give us back content within answers within 48 hours, and if not, the project's going to go on hold. Those sort of things can really impact the delivery of a contract. One of my favorite terms is, I have a friend, he owns a big web agency. He charges $5 per email. Every email the client sends them, they get $5 billed to them. Kind of like an attorney. My attorney sends me itemizes paper clips and staples. And we all laugh like, oh my God, that's, attorneys, right? But here's the thing, they know what their cost centers are and they're passing them along. And what's really cool, and I've told this tip to so many people, and I know probably a dozen agencies that do this. They charge per email now. It does two things. Number one, it means clients are concise in their communications to you. So you don't get a bunch of one-line changes, right? So it makes the project more efficient and therefore your profitability go up, right? But it also makes sure that if they're going to email you, they're going to make sure that it's important enough that they want to email you. And it also will usually mean, because we all ask the client, please have one point of contact that we deal with, right? And it never happens, right? It's always web design by committee, and you're getting emails from the VP and the president and the owner and then the marketing manager. When you start to charge per email, everyone makes darn sure it's going to the single point of contact, because they're trying to consolidate everything. It seems silly, and it seems like one of those things that clients will balk at, but it's all about how you sell it. I give a really good example. I remember years ago, I was in New York City for a Joomla Treasurer team meeting, and it was supposed to be a Joomla Day, which is kind of like a WordCamp. And the Joomla Day was canceled. This was like a long time ago because not many people registered. And we were already in New York. And so we met with the local, Joomla community, and they said, everyone's asking for WordPress. Everyone's asking for WordPress. Makes sense. WordPress is the most popular content management system. This is before, this was like over a decade ago, before I was doing WordPress work. There's nothing wrong with WordPress. WordPress is a great CMS. But they said, like, we can't make sick, and he said, nobody wants Joomla. Everyone wants WordPress. But here's the thing. All we had to do is educate them that your clients don't want WordPress. They want you and your solutions. And if you show them that you believe Joomla, because you're the expert in Joomla, is good for them for X, Y, and Z reason, they'll buy it. When we were doing agency work, when we were a Joomla shop for banks and credit unions, I lost 0 contracts of the hundreds of deals we did to WordPress because they wanted our expertise in the bank and financial units. Same is true here. When you're selling your stuff, you're selling the terms as a benefit. Hey, Mr. Client, yes, I know it says $5 per email, but here's the reason why that's good. We found in the past, we get lots of one-off changes that contradict each other. And then, you know, it extends the contract and actually ends up having you go out of scope. We don't want this project to go out of scope, but we want to deliver it on time and to exceed your expectations. So this is something to incentivize you to make sure you follow the single point of contact that we requested, and also that you're very concise in your communications with us. No one's going to argue with that. Again, it's all about setting the expectations ahead of time, which is all what a contract is setting expectations and fulfilling on them. Surprise billing items later, yeah, that's a little different. You know, I'm not saying surprise people, but have the conversation and set expectations up front. There's a wonderful book, and if you click Nathan's name here, that I love from my friend Nathan Ingram. It says, Dealing with Problem Clients, Building Fences Around Friendly Monsters. He calls clients friendly monsters. And we have to train our friendly monsters in how we work with them. One of his examples is, if you ever responded to a client on a weekend, just this once, right? Well, then the client, you know, or within minutes on your phone, then the client is trained that you have immediate response. Well, then what happens if you have a rush fee? You know, we had emergency work fee. You know, that was 3 times our hourly rate, which sometimes was over $1,000 an hour when we were doing the really big work. You know, if it was outside our normal service hours, it's called emergency rush fee. You can't do that if you're already giving the emergency level service. And it's, again, setting expectations. So it's a wonderful book. It's $10 on Amazon, both paperback and Kindle. I can't recommend it enough. So definitely grab that. So you might be asking, where do you get contracts? These contracts are great, but how do I get them for me? Well, you can use attorney services, like your own attorney. If you have your own attorney, great. Please contact them and ask if they can help you draft some contract templates and if that's something that they can provide for you. If you're in the US and I believe Canada, there was a company called Legal Shield, which is a monthly payment legal service where you get types of legal benefits such as contract drafting for a flat monthly fee. I've been a member of Legal Shield for some of my basic stuff. I pay $40 a month for it. I would not use them to represent me in court, but it is fine for just basic stuff. There are some wonderful templates out there. Monster Contracts. These are all, everything Blue's a link, remember. Monster Contracts is Nathan Ingram, the guy who did the book. He has his own contracts. So Monster Contracts is great. Check it out. Ecom Legal, which are WordPress contracts made by an attorney, Ryan Kinney, who is actually the CEO of MindSize. She has her own service as well. Ecom Legal, can't recommend it enough. And then there are all services like Rocket Lawyer and LegalZoom, which provide templates for a price. You know, I've used both they've been fine. I usually use them for like video disclaimers and things like that. Again, your mileage may vary. Please check with your own jurisdictions and countries supporting all that. And then WP Elevation, Troy has some contracts in his Blueprint agency course as well. And last but not least, you can write your own. Microsoft Office Templates has dozens, if not hundreds, of contract templates that you can download and edit, and you know, Mac has their own and things like that as well. So let's talk about invoicing solutions. And so there are 3 main ways to send invoices to your clients. Number 1 is SAAS, things like FreshBooks or QuickBooks Online. Number 2 is WordPress. Use a WordPress plugin. You already have a WordPress site, and you can do all your invoicing inside of WordPress and accept payment on your WordPress site if you want to do that. And last is manual, where you just send an email and it kind of goes out, and you might have like a Word document or something attached to it. So we're going to focus mostly on the WordPress invoicing plugins for the next little bit. I'm going to talk about the 3 most popular ones and then go over to some live samples of them. So first one is Sprout Invoices. There was a free version, and the paid starts at $59.25 standard price. It's been rated in the WordPress.org repo 4.7 out of 5 stars. And it has a little over 2,000 active installs that are publicly facing. It also has a lot of active installs that aren't publicly facing. And you can go to the demo link, boldgrid.link/8BQ. All of these demo links, what they are, they're special sandboxes I set up. So if you click any of these demo links for any of these 3 plugins, you'll get spun up a no credit card needed, no email needed even if you just click, skip typing in your email if you want to do that. It's going to spin up a brand new version of WordPress just for you for 48 hours with these plugins installed. They're free ones on the repo, and you can play around with them in our sandbox before you install them on your WordPress site. Again, you don't even need to type in your email if you don't want to. You can type in your email if you want to save it beyond 48 hours. There's no cost for it, but just making that aware of you. Or you can click the top links and download the plugins and install them on your WordPress site or whatever local environment you have. Now, Sprout Invoices is one of the plugins that is part of our company. So Web Ventures, it is one of our plugins. So I might be a little biased, but I'm just making you aware of that. Sliced Invoices is another popular one. They have a free version as well, and their paid version at standard retail price starts at $79. And it was rated 4.7 out of 5 plugins, and they have about 6,000 active installs as well. And WP Invoice is a free version with some paid add-ons, but there's not that many add-ons for it that are paid, and it was rated 3.3 out of 5 on the WordPress repo and has about 3,000 active installs. If we look at some of the features that are popular. These are not all the features at all. You can go to all of the respective websites and learn about them and figure out which plugin might make sense for you. We are going to, we're going to dig into each one a little bit on the demos, but these are just some basic features. So, things like custom themes. Can you design your own invoice template? Can there be a client dashboard so that clients can log in and see what they have outstanding or what they've paid? Does it have time tracking so that you can actually log your hours right inside and have that flow right into an invoice? Does it offer PDF invoices so clients can save as a PDF? You can email a PDF invoice. Does it offer electronic signatures of quotes or estimates to get those approved, like change orders? Does it have built-in flows for estimates and quotes? These are just automations, kind of like market automation. Does it have Zapier support, so you can integrate it with thousands of plugins and apps that work with Zapier? So if someone pays your invoice, you could automatically send them a thank you card or something like that if you're sending it to like Handywritten or whatever. Does it have WooCommerce invoicing integration? Does it support deposit or partial payments? In my opinion, is it easy to use? And I think Sprout and Sliced both check that box. WP Invoice being almost 100% free, I find it a lot more cumbersome, but again, it's not terribly complicated. And last but not least, does it integrate with the popular form providers out there? And this is kind of the box, the boxes that they check. But we're going to dig into each one a little bit. So what we're going to do that is we're going to look at Sam. This is Sam. Sam is in charge of Sam Super Designs. He's not a copywriter by trade, Sam, but Sam, they want to do invoicing. So we're going to use Sam's business in our demos. So first demo that we're going to look at is the Sprout Invoices live demo. There's the link if you want to spin up your own version and play around. I'm going to let that up for a second, and then I'm going to flip over to the demo, and then we will look at Sprout, and then we'll look at the other two. Make sure that this is still good. Okay. Let me make my box smaller. I'm just going to share the whole screen because that's not working well. New share, basic, screen 2, share. Cool, Sprout Invoices. So I've already installed Sprout Invoices on this basic WordPress site, you know, not there. So, you know, you can see on the left-hand side, we have Sprout Invoices there, and you got some basic settings where you can do things like give the company name, the phone number, the contact email. It has this nice little onboarding wizard, like, did you activate the license? Did you update the company info? Did you set up payments? You know, things like that. So we're going to be going through that. You can choose these different designs and themes, as well as integrations to the different form providers out there. You got some other basic settings, like you can choose the permalink slug, the default terms, like we expect to pay within 21 days. Please provide the payment within that time. There'll be a 1.5% insurance charge. Any default notes that you put on the invoices, and things like that. In payment settings, the thing about all of these providers is they all integrate with all these different payment providers. So maybe you want to integrate with Stripe or PayPal, and you can connect that way. Or maybe you want to connect with checkout, and you can see the different connections. And that's usually the difference between free and paid. Is usually the paid will give you access to new add-ons like PDF saving or different payment providers. So you need to kind of look at the websites and see what makes sense for you. Notifications, things like that. So we're going to do it, and it also supports estimates and invoices being separate. So we're going to do a new invoice. So we're going to click Invoices. I want to click Add Invoice. So we're going to call this New Project Invoice. You can choose, you have the line items here. So we can say hourly rate. Let's say our hourly rate is $150 an hour, and there's 10 of these. So we're going to save that. So that makes it $1,500. You can also save predefined line items in here. So if you always have the same hourly rate, you can add that on there, as well as add any notes that you want to do. If you want to add another line item, you know, you can say that, call this hosting cost. I can spell hosting. And we're going to say the rate of that is $500 a year for the year. Save that. So you can list different things in here, like, you know, the due date, due fee, the amount due, you know, status, you know, and the payment terms, things like that, you know, when the due date is. So we're going to say the due date's now, and all of that, and the fees a percentage, you know, whatever. So we can save this invoice. It should be saved. I'm going to create some default fees. I believe I already did that, right? General. USD. You can also set your currency, like do you want USD, Canadian, whatever, any of that. So we got our invoices. Got our invoice in here. There's no client on here, and there's the email's also not been sent. So what you want to do before is, you know, probably add a client to that. So we're just going to call this Acme Company. I'll leave the rest of the information blank. You can also associate it with users if you wish to do that. So the client's public. So if we go to our invoice, we should be able to assign it to the client. You can also assign it to projects or whatever the case may be. And if you want, you can even send a copy of it via email, as you see here. And is this a monthly invoice, quarterly invoice, weekly invoice, one type? And you can see any invoice history and any notes, you know, that you have, and send the invoice. We want to view this. And if we click view, this is now a public link of the invoice. So this could be sent to the client. We have our logo already in there. We can see the balance, and then the payments pending. If we turn on any payment profile, such as accepting PayPal, there'd be a way to pay it right inside here. They could just click a link and pay it. If you wanted to send an email with a copy of this, you could as well, PDF, any of that. So that is a basic way. What's nice about this is in projects, you can also create projects that your invoices get billed to if you're doing multiple invoices. And payments, you can see all the invoice payments that's been paid. And you set up these settings basically inside the payment settings. So if you had a Stripe account, you could type in all the keys, and then you'd be able to accept PayPal or Stripe right inside of the invoice that the client is going to get. And if you wanted to email, you can see if it's been emailed or not. And if you wanted to email it, you could just do that down in the send notification. Designs, and let's say I want to send it to myself. Say invoice available, and then I can just send the notification, and then it's been queued and sent. So it is a very easy way to send invoices. I could spend a whole time just logging in and doing all these different things, but let me go to Sprout's website. I'm going to go to everyone's website and kind of show you kind of how they work in price. So what's nice about Sprout is their pricing is pretty self-explanatory. There is a free version as well. But you can see they have the basic version, which accepts PayPal, recurring invoice, priority support. And you can kind of see the differences of the versions. Automated billing versus non-automated billing, WooCommerce. Do you want Stripe? You know, a lot of it has to do with the payment integrations and like the advanced support, like time tracking, things like that. So you can see the different pricing that is available here. And you can customize your any of the template designs inside the WordPress customizer as well. So that's Sprout. Let me move this over to here. Come on. If you're interested in Sprout at all, there is an exclusive discount for the recipients of this webinar. It's only valid for 1 week. It's the largest discount we've ever done. You just use code GreenGeeks, and you'll get 60% off any of the packages. If that makes sense, again, there was a free version that I recommend you start with to see if it kind of fulfills your basic needs. And then if it makes sense, you know, maybe get a paid version from there. So that is available if you're interested. Next, we're going to look at Sprout Sliced Invoices. There's a link to, if you want to spin up a sandbox, of Sliced. With the QR code, we'll let that go for a second. So here I got another WordPress install with Sliced Invoices. You can see on the left here I have Sliced Invoices, and it's very similar. You can choose when you want the year to start, year to end, any predefined line items. So instead of kind of doing it, you know, inside the editor, you can say, okay, I always want these line items to charge on every single, you know, I want the format, and you can see the format there. You can choose the business logo, address, website, those sort of things. Quote invoices, which payments you want to accept, such as PayPal or other payment systems as well, PDFs, etc. So again, invoices and quotes are separated. So if we wanted to add a new invoice, we just click Add New Invoice. And you can see we got our line items here. Though there were these predetermined line items that, again, we could have saved in Sprout, but we haven't yet. But, you know, I put some example in here. So like there's this one for web design, and I'm going to add another line item, and we're going to say web development and choose what the rates are there. I'm going to call this new design. You do need to add it to a client. So the way they do clients is you need to make WordPress users. So in this case, we're going to do a user called Acme. Add that new client, and then now it's added. But again, they have to add the WordPress user. You can see all this. We can status draft. We can say it's an unpaid invoice, publish that invoice, choose any payment item, you know, manually put any payments there that they've done it manually, as well as any terms and conditions that you may apply. And then you can view the invoice as well on the front end, and then send this link to your client. So it is pretty self-explanatory. Sliced Invoices and Sprout are pretty feature comparable with each other. But you know, what's nice about Sprout is you can use the WordPress customizer and design it to match your stuff exactly. And it has a few more designs built into it, but they're both pretty self-explanatory. If I had a payment provider hooked on here, I would be able, there'd be a button so that the client could pay with Stripe or PayPal or whatever. Payment, the way that Sliced Invoices bills is very similar to Stripe. Here we go. If you look, you can just do add-ons, extensions separately. So if you only need, let's say, the Contact Form 7 extension, you can just buy that. Or you can do bundles, which start at $79 for the freelancer bundle, and includes these. And then the business bundle is $179, and the main difference there is you get Stripe. And then you get 3 more gateways on their agency bundle, where Sprout had about a dozen different payment providers for you to choose from. Again, it just makes sense depending on what you're looking for. But just like this, start with the free version, see if you like it, and then look to see what features you need, and then find the bundle that makes sense for you. Unfortunately, because it's not my product, I can't give you a discount for this, but the pricing is comparable with everything else. Last but not least is WP Invoice. You can go to boldgrid.link/ABQ if you want to spin up a sandbox of this, or scan the QR code. We'll give that in for a second. So this is WP Invoice, and you'll notice WP Invoice very similar. It's a little different because in the settings, you can select your logo, which I haven't done yet. So let me upload our logo. Nope. Come on. Word. Sure, we're just going to say that's our logo because I don't know where my logo file went. Business address, business name, all that same stuff. If you're using GoDaddy hosting or not, which has some special server configurations, payment providers, like do you accept Stripe, PayPal, Authorize.net, those are the options that they have there, as well as any email templates that you want to edit. If you wanted to add a new invoice, you just click Add New. I'm going to type in new, and then it's going to let us make our invoice, design, give it any text or whatever, and then you can add your line items here. So we're going to say like hourly rate. The price here is $150. The quantity is 10. Calculates it out. We're going to add another line for hosting. Now you'll notice that the stuff doesn't line up as well. This is why I kind of say that it's not as user-friendly as some of the other two that we've looked at. But for being free, you really can't argue with it. Choose your currency, choose the user information that you want it to go to. So in this case, we're just going to type something in, John Doe. Co, blah, blah, blah. Do we want this to be a recurring bill, partial payment, any of that stuff? So I'm going to save this. You can also add a payment manually if you wanted to record a payment that way. And if you want to view the invoice, you just click View Invoice. And where did my invoice go? View Online. Sorry, this worked in my testing. This is supposed to view the invoice. I do apologize. I don't know why this invoice is not showing. Let me go back. So we got the invoice here. It's active. View. I would need to dig into this. I really apologize. When I was doing my testing this morning, this all worked. So yeah. Let me see if I got an email on this. They just sent it just on email, a different way. Invoice. Nope, didn't. It's not an invoice. Okay, I do apologize with that, but that is the steps how you do that. I'm not exactly sure why that is not showing. Cool. As far as pricing goes for WP Invoice, let me pull that up. Hope this isn't the right one. Sorry. There we go. WP Invoice. Plug in a website. So pretty much, it's almost all free. Like they have the main plugins free, and then they also have a PayPal Payments Pro add-on, which is also free, and they have these other two USAE payments as well. So it's pretty much just a 100% free plugin. It does integrate with some of their other software, which is paid, but that's kind of how that works, and that's from usability dynamics. Okay. Last but not least, I want to kind of talk about recurring revenue. You want to make sure that you always have recurring revenue, because that's what's going to really make the difference in your business. Oh, I forgot to say, if you have any specific questions or want to see any features, please post in the Q&A. We can flip back to that towards the end. There are two companies I really recommend. One's called Growth Driven Design. It is a wonderful framework of how to run an agency. It's actually through HubSpot. Luke Summerfield, a good friend of mine, who wrote the content. And in there, it's going to say to use the HubSpot CMS, but it doesn't matter. Replace HubSpot with WordPress. It's all the same philosophy. But what's cool about Growth Driven Design is it's all about selling monthly iterations on every site you do, because usually we're guessing when we make websites for clients, right? And you always need to do changes. What's nice about growth-driven design is you're just billing a monthly service rate that includes the changes based on the data. There's a whole philosophy behind it. It's free to take the course and get certified. I highly, highly recommend it. Second is a free book you can get called dream100book.com. Dana Derrick's, I'm in his mastermind group. It's all about how to find those wonderful clients and how to find people that will help promote for you. Now, keep in mind, if you do get the book on dream100book.com, you are going to get offered some upsells, for some of his other programs. You can say no, thank you. I just like to make people aware of that so they don't buy something that they're not aware of. You can become a hosting affiliate. So this is an example on a made-up hosting company. Let's say there's a $75 a month hosting plan, and they offer 20% commission for lifetime, which is pretty common on some of these hosting plans. If you're interested in the GreenGeeks affiliate program, you can click the link and learn about their program. They offer custom rates depending on volume. Talk to them on that. What's cool about this, though, is let's say you do 200 sites a year on this example. The first year, you'll make $3,000 extra. I know what you're thinking, 200 sites a year, I'm never going to get to that volume. But here's the thing. You know what the biggest risk to WordPress is right now? It's not other content management systems. It's Wix, Weebly, and Squarespace. It's the SaaS solutions. And those clients that want those $200 or $300 or $400 websites are probably not going to be your client for a $5,000 or $50,000 website. But if you can charge those baby websites, InMotion Hosting does a good job with this. They sell a $99 product called Website Quick Starter. So it's a one-page website that will get created for you within a day. You can offer these baby websites, and if you can do one of those a day for 500 bucks, let's say $500, or it's $1,000 or whatever you want to offer, and you're going after the bakeries, the mom and pops, those shops, you can earn $120,000 your first year just doing that. And you can find them in your local chambers of commerce networking group. And if you sell them hosting, you get an extra $3,000. 2 year, if you add the same amount of sites, you get 6,000 because it compounds. Year 3 is 9,000. After 8 years, you'll get an additional $24,000 into your pocket. And again, just talk to the host that you think makes sense and join their affiliate program. GreenGeeks has a great program. I'm sure they're happy to talk to you about that after the webinar as well. You want to think about not your client acquisition cost, but your referral acquisition cost. What is the cost for someone to give you a referral? Not the cost, what it is to find a new client. You are so far more likely, if you treat your current customers right, to get them to refer you. I still do freelance work. I haven't advertised in 10 years. It's all just from referrals. Now, I purposely keep myself small. I don't work with more than 4 clients at any one time because I have a full-time job being the lead handshaker during the pandemic. But it's a real job that my pay stubs say. And I'm also the evangelist for Bold Grid. And I love it. So I know I don't have time to be a full-time agency person, but referral acquisition cost is what you want to think about. And that's what that Dream 100 book is all about. And that, you go to that link and get the book for free. I can't recommend it enough. It also makes sense. According to the Marketing Matrix study, you are 5 times more likely to close a deal through an existing relationship. Bain & Company says it costs 7 times more to land a new client than to sell through an existing one. And Nielsen says clients who are referred by a friend are 4 times more likely to buy from you. So maybe you want to start a part of your business that focuses on those entry-level websites and then nurture them into more services later on with recurring revenue. Maybe you want to take your larger clients, the ones that do buy those $20,000 or $30,000 projects, and get them on a monthly maintenance plan, not just for WordPress updates, but also for site changes. If you don't want to do the work, there are companies as such as GoWP that will offer white label services to actually do the work for your clients on your behalf, and that would be a cost you need to figure in, or find your own resources. People remember experiences and talk about them. When you're serving clients, especially now in the COVID world, an agency you need to make sure that you treat them as humans first, and you understand their needs and what makes them tick. Ask about their kids. Send them a birthday card, or better yet, send them a half birthday card. Figure out what is going on in their lives, and then send them experiences, not just invoices. If you can send them an experience when they do work with you, you are going to be far more likely to have that relationship. When we buy a company, I send the gifts. I send gifts. I sent this poster to the maker of Sprout Invoices. This is a handmade, hand-signed poster that there's only 100 of in the world. He loves Jurassic Park. And every call we had before we closed the deal was, we wish he had my poster. Well, I contacted the artist and sent it to him. And now it's on his office wall. And he talks about web ventures, I guarantee it. People remember experiences, and that's where you're going to get these referrals. Send fun stuff. This is just a slide of some of the things I've sent out this year. I've sent out 80 pounds of pasta to 5 people in our community. I've sent custom mugs to different people in our community. I've sent cookies. I have these ViewMasters that I had to send to potential acquisitions that have a slide pitch deck in the old ViewMaster. If a company has a logo, there are companies that will make stuffed animals for you for not very much money. And I know it seems like, why would I want to do that? It seems expensive. But people talk about experience, remember experiences and talk about them, which is all about the referral acquisition cost, which is going to get you more money, which has been proven, and then you can send them in those new people invoices and keep the cycle going. Last but not least, you want to be genuine in all your communications. You don't want to seem robotic. People will buy from you because they trust you. They're going to trust your service. They're going to trust your expertise. Don't sound robotic. Don't sound salesy. You are a person just like they are, and you're both trying to get through this together. Be genuine and also be honest. If somebody is not comfortable with your values or who you are, they're probably not going to be a good client. I once had somebody call me this week and was like, hey, I got this project. Can you help with this? I'm like, maybe. Tell me about it. And I just had that spider sense in the back of my head that it wouldn't be a good fit. So I passed on it, even though it might have been a lot of money, because that usually is right. How many times have you accepted a contract that you'll do just this once and it goes sideways? Be genuine, and also be genuine in your brand and yourself. Just recently online, I came out as pansexual professionally. And I've gotten hundreds, if not thousands, of shares and support from people in the WordPress community and beyond. And if people have a problem with that, I'm probably not the person to help them. Now, it means I'm still respectful to everyone I talk to, and I might recommend someone who might be a better fit for their needs. But you have to be genuine and own who you are and what your company voice is. Couple of cautions that I want to say before we get into questions. First of all, I'm not an attorney, so I don't pretend to be one. Just aware of that. Don't use a kill switch. Don't take down clients' content if they don't pay you. I'm going to say it again. Don't take down clients' content if they don't pay you. There have been times, I'm not talking about hosting if they don't pay their hosting or something like that, which is why I like having clients own their own hosting with an affiliate. I get an affiliate kickback, but then they have to pay them. That's also why I've said don't give final delivery of anything until they finish paying you, because there have been multiple cases where clients had their own hosting and a developer put the website online. And then there was a billing dispute and the client wouldn't pay. And they got locked out of their hosting. So then the clever designer, and I can point to a couple of lawsuits on this. Again, I'm not an attorney, but I can point to a couple of cases on this. And there's been articles where they installed like a CSS kill switch, where they had a CSS script for loading internally on their server, and they could flip a flag value and take down the entire website externally. The client sued them, and that web agency lost millions of dollars. Do not do anything that will harm a client's business, period. It will come back to bite you. I don't care if they have your dog hostage. You need to protect yourself. And this means not harming your clients. We go back to the contracts. What are the terms of the contracts? Again, step one, don't get paid. Don't work unless you get paid. If they haven't paid, stop working. Number two, don't do deliverability. Don't give final deliverability until after they pay, and make the contract clear that you own all intellectual property until final payment, and you give them a signed document that says otherwise, that they are now the owner. Then you have legal ground to stand on. But you cannot, I've seen so many advice of people online saying, take down the website, they haven't paid you, blah, blah, blah. It's awful advice. And depending on where you live, you could be in big legal trouble. If you need to get into collections, I hope you don't, because we've did everything before, but if you need to get in collections, some easy things to do. Again, talk to them. There are companies out there called Debtor Daddy, which is a SaaS-based software that will send emails automatically that start polite and then get more aggressive the later debt comes. You can connect it to your invoicing software, such as the plugins we talked about through Zapier. I like to spread invoices or something. Send physical postal mail with tracking, and always pick up the phone and call people sometimes. Because I don't work until I get paid and I take deposits, I've never really had to deal with collections. And the one time where I thought I might have, I picked up the phone and someone said, oh, my email address changed. Sorry. But the longer that debt stays on your books, the less likely you are to get that money back. Debtor Daddy does have a collection arm where they will actually collect on your behalf with live people following all the laws. They're US based, so you need to look at stuff in your jurisdiction. and they take the fees there. But you really don't want to send it to a collection agency if you don't have to. You can always sue people in small claims court. It's not that scary. Bridget Willard has a good article on her website about this, but you just need to do the cost-benefit analysis if it's worth your time or effort. I'm going to end on Linus, the founder of kind of open source and Linux, that in real open source, you have the right to control your own destiny. And I really, really firmly believe that. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now, and let's see what questions we might have in the Q&A. Let's see. Okay. A lot of our jobs has, Carlos says, a lot of our jobs has been with the teach customers about services. This sounds like consulting sales. This goes in with the job itself. How can we manage these kind of borders? I'm going to say answer live. I'm going to say I'm going to answer all these live. So yeah, so I'm going to guess what you mean by that is, you kind of need to teach them about the services and like what the pros and cons are. It goes back to the discovery thing we talked about. If you're going to have to spend a lot of time with a client to teach them about why they might need your products or services and figure out what their needs are, if they're paying you a discovery fee, then that would just get kind of banked in from there. And it goes back to setting expectations. I know a lot of clients that will sometimes get quotes from people and they have no interest in doing business with you. You might see like a request for a proposal, like an RFP. And a lot of times if you are asked to fill out an RFP and you haven't started the conversation first, it's probably because they're just trying to get 3 comparisons to prove why the one that they want to use is worth their time. So a filter I always use is if you're willing to pay a discovery fee, then you're willing to work with us. If you're not, it's probably not a good fit. So hopefully that answers that question. Phi says, hopefully I pronounced that right. Course at work this morning, PW invoice, you have proven again what we all know. Thanks. Always a glitch in a live presentation. Yes, I usually record videos when I do demos and I just play the videos and talk over it. But quite frankly, I was at Modicon presenting yesterday morning and I had to wake up at 2 a.m. my time because it was a European and Asian conference. And I didn't have time to record a video. So I'm like, I'll do a live demo just this once, right? Just this once. I'm going to answer this client call at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then it comes to bite me. But I really appreciate your thoughts, your comments. And then she says, now a real question on a small scale mom and pop level, how do you steer a client away from those Facebook pseudo websites to a real site? So Facebook actually announced that they are selling websites now, not just pages. Well, not yet, but as of today, Facebook is doing ads where you can get a website where it's really just a Facebook page and connected to a domain. Facebook is now going to be starting to sell their own websites that are going to be like little mini websites, kind of like little mini Squarespaces. The main thing I talk about is ownership of content. Wix, Weebly, and Squarespace and Facebook, all of those, sometimes you don't own their content. Squarespace, for example, you don't own the designs, but you own the content. So you can export just the content, but not the design. So that's a big part of it. Also, I don't like to be locked in. I teach people about open source and owning their things. A good example of this is I make sure all my clients, all their plugins are licensed in their names. All their hosting is in their name. I get affiliate in all of it, right? But if something happens to me, they need to have access to that. And if you don't know what's going to happen with Facebook, and quite frankly, Facebook's main core business is not doing these mini websites, and you don't know what the future may hold. So I would kind of figure out why they're looking at Facebook, and it's usually an ease of use. Usually it's like, I know Facebook and I can do it myself. And you'd be like, okay, great, that's awesome. So then you can use something like BoldGrid, which is a page builder that has over 500 mini site templates built into it. Or you can design your own mini templates and sell those micro websites that I talked about and say, instead of doing that, what if you owned your own content? maybe you'll just start with the basic stuff. And then over time, you know, maybe they want to add more, but if they don't, maybe they just want a one-page website and you charge $500 a year for it, including hosting. Or maybe 100, depending on who you're targeting. You have to kind of figure that out. And then at least they own it. And then even if they go to another designer and don't go back to you, but they probably will go back to you because you're going to send those half birthday cards, right? And they'll remember you. You know, they'll be in a better spot to serve it for themselves. 68% of all small businesses in the US have no web presence. That's no Google Maps, no Facebook, no website, no nothing. And if you, I firmly believe, use something, there's a group called BNI, Business Network International. Join one of those. Join your local chambers of commerce. BNI is everywhere, by the way, in every single city in the world. And it's where you pass leads with other small businesses. You become known as the $500 or the $200 website person. It's just an easy way to sell a lot of services very easily and you help a lot of people. Now, you have to set your expectations of the client, going back to the contract, on what they get so that you're not spending 20 hours on making $200. But, you know, if they're like, hey, you get one of these 20 templates, you can choose the colors and do all that, it might be a good way to get started. And then over time, you nurture them into something more. Let's see, any other questions? Oh, we have a new question. This one is from Chris. Would you say it's best to take invoice deposits as a separate invoice or as a line item and allow partial payment on the invoice? That is a good question. It kind of depends if you're doing hourly billing or if you are doing project-based billing. If you're doing hourly or like daily billing, what I would do is have them take a deposit as a separate invoice, and then that goes into a block of time. And through the time tracking of something like Sprout Invoices, the clients can log in and see kind of how many hours they have left, and then you can put bills against those hours. If it's a project, I would usually do one invoice and then allow a partial payment in the terms of whatever your deposit's going to be. I find it's a little bit cleaner. But if you just, like I personally just do hourly blocks, you have to buy 20 hours at this much an hour. And I do any of those, and I just send it off. And then when they get down to 10 hours or less, it automatically sends another invoice for another 20 hours, and my hours never expire. And when you're doing hourly billing or daily billing or whatever, you need to figure out what the minimum time you're going to bill is. I bill a minimum 15 minutes. That means that they send me an email and a reply, that's 15 minutes, even if it only took me 3 minutes. Now, that doesn't mean if they sent me 20 emails and I wait till the end to reply all 20 emails, I'm billing 15 minutes per email. No, I'll bill whatever the total cumulative time is. Now, I do based on projects. So I have one client that has 130 websites, 130 websites, one client. And when I do updates or changes for them that require touch more than one site, I bill a minimum of 15 minutes per site. And then I show it on the client dashboard when we're using billing away from the group of hours. Okay. Any other questions? I'm going to show one more, leave up my discount in case people missed that. Real quick, here is the discount again on Sprout Invoices. If you want 60% off, it's better than our Black Friday deals ever going to be. Code GreenGeeks. It's only good for 1 week, and it's just for people on this webinar and the friends that you tell. And there is a version where you can actually offer sub-licenses for no additional cost to your clients if they are also small businesses, and they would find that useful. More questions, yay! How do you feel about using a WordPress site to build and maintain a Square site for beginning clients, i.e. making a subdirectory with your name or whatever? Okay, sure. So it kind of depends on what they're doing. That's kind of like what WordPress .org uses, right? So if you don't pay for one of the paid plans, you can't attach a domain to it, right? And some people are happy with that, like subdomain.wordpress.com, excuse me. That's kind of something that you can do with that. So subdomains aren't really great for SEO. I always recommend every client have access to their own domain. Now, if you are doing those subsites, there is a service, there is a philosophy called WAS, Website as a Service. And there's a WordPress plugin called WP Ultimo that allows you to make a template and to auto sell them onto custom domains for your clients. It works on any hosting that WordPress works on, and it's very easy. So there's, I'll share my screen and show you what that looks like real quick, because that's something you can think about. Screen 2. So WP Ultimo. So WP Ultimo, you basically build templates based on, let's say, a certain niche or something, and you can sell these directly to your clients, and they'll automatically spin up the hosting and tie it to the domain and spin up your own network. So I honestly think this is better. So this is an example of a WAS for beauty professionals. So this is rawbeauty.space. And if I wanted to buy my own beauty website, I could then just go to the pricing and I can see, oh, it's 25 bucks a month for the artist level. Okay, great. And then I just buy the monthly amount, and I'm going to create the website right here. And it's just going to automatically, you know, start the checkout process for me. And it's automatically going to, you know, let me pick one of the templates, you know, from all of these different templates that you can choose from. And it's such a cool thing. And so we're going to do those micro websites. This is a way to automate it, but still let people tie it to a domain name. You can accept PayPal and Stripe. You can tie it to invoicing, such as Stripe, not Stripe, Sprout Invoices, or any of that stuff. If you want to learn more about WP Ultimo, there are 2 companies I really recommend. So the first one is was.camp. So was.camp is training on how to sell your website services like a pro. They basically tell you to use, it's training for WP Ultimo basically. This is a great service. I love the training of it. So this is one. And then the other one is called Website Blueprint. Find it. turnkey-website-blueprints.com. Same thing as was.camp, but this uses WP Ultimo, and it teaches you how to sell these WAS websites very easy in their course is that they have. So they have a wonderful course that you can get. I'm members of both of these, and I can't recommend them enough. So if you're thinking about selling these mini websites, this is a way to do it without actually having to touch the client at all. It just does everything via for you, and it works on any hosting that WordPress works on. So,
Mike, there is something in the chat.
Yep.
Daryl.
Oh, okay.
Sounds like a.
Yeah. So Daryl says, I have a well-constructed contract from a previous business. I moved to a new state, and the business name has changed. Generally speaking. Ever had to resolve a situation like that, I feel comfortable updating a couple of the legal references. Every state's a little different. So what I would recommend is there are companies like Rocket Lawyer or LegalZoom or Prepaid Legal. They offer usually for like a very low fee for like 20 bucks or 30 bucks or 50 bucks. We'll offer like a 15-minute consultation or something. So if you are comfortable doing the basic changes, make sure the state is for, changed for your state and things. I just would get it looked at by an attorney, through one of those companies and just see what they think before using it. Or if you're friends with an attorney, have them kind of look at it and see what their thoughts are. It's probably going to be okay, but every state has different, requirements and things. So I would, double check with that for somebody that practices in that state. So.
Thank you. Other than that, I think there's a comment asking if the webinar is being recorded, which it is. We're going to email everybody a link early next week.
Yep. And so, Anna, and in that link, you'll also give a link to the slides, right?
Yes, we will do that.
Cool. Yep, and then in the slides, because she was also asking, we'll have all of the links that you need. So if you want to click anything.
Great, thank you. If there are no more questions, let's see if there's anything else. Maybe something else again in the chat.
Okay. So Daryl also asks, seems like you have experience with plugins and other open source CMSs. Any of the invoicing plugins familiar with that are cross-platform, specifically Drupal? I understand the plugin will run on the business website, but you'd like to know one really well. So of those three, none of them work on Drupal, but all three of them can work on Joomla. And the way that they can work on Joomla is Core PHP. There's a company called Core PHP, and they have a product called WordPress for Joomla, which allows you to install any WordPress plugin into a Joomla site. So you can do it that way. As far as Drupal goes, I am not aware of any sort of connection that way. But what you could do is you could, run your invoicing on just a bare bones WordPress site. Maybe you don't have, maybe it's not even connected to, your business website. Let's say your business website's on Drupal, and you could have something called like invoicing.domainname.com, and then just run the invoicing plugin of your choice that way as well. But if you are running Joomla, you can use WordPress for Joomla and run any WordPress plugin on Joomla if you're so inclined. That is a thing. It's not the best for performance, but it exists. Christopher says, got disconnected. I didn't get to hear the response to my question, but I can wait for the replay. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. If we don't have any additional questions, we're going to do the raffle.
Yay.
We'll run a raffle.
Okay, let's do the raffle. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I'm going to spin the wheel. The raffle is for 2 free EcoSite Live hosting accounts for 1 year. So good luck. France is the first winner. Congrats. Okay, again. Amy is the second winner. Congratulations, both.
Okay, so, well, thank you so much. You can follow Mike. He put it, I think he just put his Twitter, MP Mike. And you can find out about more webinars from greengeeks.com/webinars. And we hope you participate to other future webinars. And thank you.
Anna and Mike, I really enjoyed the talk. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. It was really good. Thank you so much. And thank you, Erica, for helping. Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Yes, thank you, Anna.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.